All right, at the start of lockdown, comedian Marc Lottering started working with a feeding scheme in Mitchell's Plain, this on the Cape Flats. It was there that he met Joanie Fredericks, who heads up the soup kitchen in the area, and they've been working together ever since. But now, over 100 days into the lockdown, the situation is becoming dire. Lottering decided to pen the song you just heard by Craig Lucas. Actually, I'm hoping you'd still be able to hear. It was produced by Ibrahim Maloom. And speaking of which, let's just take a listen to that song.
Made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
To reach the most vulnerable families in our country, we have decided on a temporary 6-month coronavirus grant.
Is this how it goes then? Wake up and wait to die. Hold it together so babies don't see you cry. Hey sister, just you wait in line, 'cause someone said that you'll be fine. What about the people? Every child and every man, an open empty hand. What about the people? Does anybody care? Another day of prayer.
We are here with Joanie Fredericks, who's from Tafelsig, and we are desperately trying to get the government to provide this community and other communities and soup kitchens around the country with money for food. Otherwise our people will starve.
Hungry hearts beating, surely we matter still.
We are at breaking point. This is 5 months into lockdown, which is obviously as a direct result of COVID-19. For 5 long months I've been appealing to the president of this country to channel food really to the community so that people can eat.
What about the people? Every child and every man.
Hello, my name is Joanie.
Good day. Hi.
We have people that have lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 lockdown. People have been hungry and unemployed even before. Then we already had this pandemic called hunger. You have promised us that you are going to help our communities. Our communities are hungry, and so we do not have the resources. When are you going to own up to what you have promised us?
I feel that if I stop doing what I've been doing for 5 months, a hell of a lot of people will run without food for days on end.
We have run out of food items.
Our people is suffering, they are hungry.
We are appealing for a helping hand.
We implore you to assist us.
Please help.
We request your intervention.
Please, Mr. President. Please help us. Please help us.
Help us. We are suffering here.
Is this how it goes then? Wake up and wait to die.
All right then, now that of course was a song penned there by Marc Lottering, and he joins us now for a discussion. We're also joined by Joanie Fredericks. I'm hoping that the sound and technical issues will not interrupt us because we've been trying to test with you, Joanie. Hopefully we'll see if you can hear us. If not, then unfortunately I'll have to only interact with Marc. But let me start with you, Marc. I mean, you of course are a comedian. You do crack funny jokes for a living, naturally. Joanie, at that. But aside from this side of you, what have you seen, I mean, from this appeal, the situation that is dire?
You know, I've been to Tafelsig because I saw the video on social media. I saw Joanie's plea a few months back to the president to please come and help because they are running out of food and they need the money that was intended for the poor. And I called Joanie, and that's how I ended up in Tafelsig. And it's one thing to read about these things. It's one thing to see it on television. But to actually stand amongst people who are queuing for food, and you can see that the pot is empty, but the queue is still long. I'm talking about women. I'm talking about children, men trying to keep their dignity intact. And it's gut-wrenching. You stand there, you know, as any citizen would, and you go, I wish I could help. I wish there was something that I could do. But the situation is so dire that you can actually feel the despair and you can feel the hopelessness while everybody's being told in media to sanitize and to wear a mask. And there you're looking into the eyes of someone just waiting for a cup of soup before they can even get to the business of sanitizing. So it hit, you know, it tore me apart. And Joanie said, please, how about we do a short film, because they've tried every avenue in which to beg government to please see this situation for what it is, to please help them or they will die. And when I said, let's do the film, I got a little film company in there headed by Manir Parker, and Joanie invited videos from people all around Mitchell's Plain to say how many people they are feeding per day. And what happened was this caught fire to such an extent that we had video clips coming in from all around the country. Right. Kimberley, Soweto, everywhere, with people saying, Mr. President, we need your help or our people will die. And this is the plea. And then I wrote this song, and I got the wonderful Craig Lucas who agreed to sing the song for us, and we do hope that the right people get to see this.
Absolutely. Joanie, welcome to the South African Morning, and I'm hoping that you can hear me clearly. I mean, you've been working in communities for years now. How desperate is the situation on the ground?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Well, look, I'm the type of person, I'm an activist on the ground, and I normally do my own thing. I'm used to making plans, doing what needs to be done. But this time around, for me to practically beg government to get involved means it is hectic. People, donors and individual people, companies who prior used to support us, some of these people has lost their business, they lost their jobs. So we have nowhere to turn but to government. So it is hectic.
Yeah, so funding seems to be an issue, because on one hand, Joanie, you are saying that you've been appealing to government for assistance, and on the other, Mark, you're also saying that you wish you could help, you wish you could do more, and I suppose you're also alluding to funds, that funds were depleting, food was depleting. So that seems to be the biggest issue, Mark, here when it comes to feeding schemes funding.
Funding is a big issue, you know, and I have to echo what Joanie just said, because when I first went into Tafelsig a couple of months back, there are groups of people who are trying their best to get groceries to soup kitchens and to feeding projects around the country. But as Joanie has just said, even those people have now called her, have looked her in the eye and said, our hearts are breaking, but we are now slowly having to realize we won't be able to do this any longer. And all the millions that was intended for this purpose, I mean, over the past 2 weeks, we've just seen horror stories unfolding as to where all of that money went. And we are playing with the lives of South African men, women and children.
Yeah, and just Joanie, very briefly, I mean, you interact with, these commuters every single day who are desperately in need of food supplies. What's your interaction like with them?
Look, like Mark said earlier, I mean, you can't even start a conversation without offering somebody something to eat, because unfortunately now in this time, the only conversation really is about food. Is, do you have something to eat for me? Is there more bread over? Will there be food tomorrow? This is the only conversation at this point in the communities.
Mark, for every ENCA viewer right now watching this conversation and listening in, how can they contribute and assist?
Well, you know, for everyone listening, firstly, we'd like people to really share the clips on social media. They can go to my social media handles and to Joanie, which is www.mitchellsplaincan.co.za. All the information is there. But what we do want to say is certainly help where you can. We're now in the situation in South Africa where we just have the sense that everybody wants to help, but people are looking you in the eye and going, "My bro, it's hectic. We're all losing jobs. We are all struggling. We're all stressing. We've never been in a situation like this before." So I think the bottom line is we now actually need for President Cyril Ramaphosa to talk to us as to what he is going to do, because the government works for us and the people are dying. They need to come to the rescue.
Well, thank you so much, Marc Lottering, Joanie Fredericks, for highlighting this very dire situation. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the South African Morning.